Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bells Must Ring podcast. I am your host, Andrew Rice, here with my usual co-host, Arnav Sarkar. We're coming to you live right after the Rutgers game, the day after the Rutgers game, to recap everything that happened and everything that we learned from last night. Rutgers squared off against Ohio. They won. They beat the Bobcats 34-31. But before we get into any of that, I just want to do a quick mention that defensive tackle Doug Blue-Eli is out for the season. He sustained an injury sometime during training camp, and he has been deactivated for the entire season. He is expected to medically redshirt and return to Rutgers next season. To the best of my knowledge, that has already been confirmed that the medical redshirt has been offered to him. I'm not 100% sure, but he is expected to return to Rutgers next season, according to several different sites from around the Rutgers community. With that in mind, rolling right into the Rutgers game, I got to be honest with you. In typical Rutgers fashion, they always make you sweat it out. They always got to make you sweat it out. It's always got to be on the edge of your seat, heart pounding, where it's just like, please just make it end. But eventually it did end, and Rutgers did emerge victorious, 34-31 over the Bobcats. This was almost like a tale of two halves. Rutgers looked very explosive in the first half. The defense did get a couple stops, but in the second half, that did seem to just go away. The Rutgers offense went almost completely silent, only knocking through one field goal after halftime. The defense started to become a turnstile, surrendering 14 points after the break, and really giving Rutgers fans a scare there. The defense did look out of sorts, a lot of different issues on there. But before we get into the defense, we're going to look at the offensive side of the ball. A couple points that worried me, different areas of concern. My main area of concern is that third down was extremely ineffective. 1 out of 9 on third down. They did eventually make that up on fourth down, going 5 for 5, but I don't know, converting 1 out of 9 on third down against a MAC team and having to use that fourth down, it's usually not a recipe for success, and I don't believe it's going to be a recipe for success come Big Ten play.
Yeah, I mean, you said like a whole bunch over there, but yeah, I mean, obviously starting with the pregame news, like, Doug Blue-Eli, that was a big blow. Obviously expected starter on the D-line at defensive tackle. So it's like, next man up mentality. That could have had something to do with, the way the defense was, although probably not a huge part of it because, it was just bad all over the place. But on the offensive side of the ball, like, yeah, they were 1 for 9 on third down, which is not good, like, at all, especially against, like, a MAC team, like, even a very good one, like, obviously, with all due respect to Ohio. But I mean, still, like, 1 for 9 on third down isn't good against anybody, to be, like, completely honest with you. And, if this was a Big Ten game, it'd still be really bad. So, like, even that aside, it's just not great. But on the bright side, I mean, they went 5 for 5 on fourth down. And that's, Rutgers, I mean, that was a bit, like, unusual for a Greg Schiano team to really be that confident in the offense, but that really says a lot about where the game was at, that they went for it 5 times on fourth down. They converted all 5. A lot of those were like fourth and short, like 4th and 2, 4th and 3. There was like, I think maybe a 4th and 1. There was like a lot of runs, and Rutgers was winning the line of scrimmage on with their running backs. Antoine Raymond had a good game. CJ Campbell had a good game. So they were able to, say, hey, we're gonna get the first down with the run. But even a couple times through the air as well, they were able to convert on the game winner. I mean, a huge gutsy call there. Ohio's trailing by 3. Rutgers has the ball. I mean, if you do kick a field goal and, give Ohio a chance, but, win the game, try to win the game with your defense, or do you take a risk and try to end it right there on your own terms on offense? And Rutgers decided to go, with the second option that I just said, to end it on your own terms with your offense. And given the way the game went, that was probably the right call, because even if they made the field goal and they go up 6, like, I mean, Ohio, like the way that game went, like, yeah, maybe they would have gotten a stop, maybe they wouldn't. Ohio could have scored a touchdown. Navarro could have tucked it and ran. Like, anything could have happened. They were moving the ball through the air, on the ground. The defense got 1 stop, and there was no guarantee that would happen again the way this game was going. So I think it was the right call. But more importantly, I think the play call over there to find to find DT Sheffield kind of in the middle of their kind of like their own like version of their zone defense, kind of finding him right in the middle, just enough yardage, a little bit more for the first down. Ohio, I was saying during the game they have nobody back because now I realize it's because they wanted everybody to stop the down. Basically, they weren't so concerned about the touchdown; they're concerned about getting the the spot of the ball. They're more concerned about getting the preventing the 7 yards, but somehow still they left kind of soft spot in that defense in the middle.
Well, if you remember correctly, there was a lot of people piled on the defensive line too, like on the end.
Yeah, they were also showing a lot of blitz, like in that position, because it was kind of like but you know what I mean. It wasn't. I guess they weren't so worried about a touchdown. They were more worried about can getting the ball out of Rutgers' hands and preventing them from getting the first down. So nobody was back at the end, and I was like, well, Rutgers could exploit that, but instead they found the perfect spot in the defense to go for to get a first. So yeah, I mean that was huge. I mean Raymond at 88 yards, Campbell I believe at 70. Ian Strong led the receivers with 7 catches for 100. DT Sheffield also had a very strong night. I don't want to like read any stats. So I mean, just to make sure, like I'm gonna have that like that pulled up and everything. But yeah, I mean, Rutgers just had a terrific night offensively. Calicmanis was nearly perfect, 18 for 23, 252 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. Antoine Raymond, 88 yards on 14 carries, average of 6.3 yards a carry and a touchdown. CJ Campbell, 7-yard average, 7-yard average, 7-yard average on yards per carry, 70 yards, 10 on 10 carries. Deshaun Benjamin also got some action. He had a 115-yard rush, actually, which kind of almost want to notice, but he had 17 yards there. Receiving, Ian Strong with 7 receptions for 100, for 100 yards to lead all of the Rutgers players. DT Sheffield, which is what I was going to get to, had 85 yards, 4 receptions, an average of 21.3, which was boosted by that one beautiful touchdown, 54 yards down the sideline. That's why we brought him in to make plays like that, and I was really excited to see the speed and of DT Sheffield, and then of course later getting that first down, being at the right place at the right time. KJ Duff had a 19-yard pickup. He had 5 catches for 54 yards. He had a touchdown over the middle, a nice grab over there. They got the tight ends involved. The running game was good. They won the line of scrimmage, like I already mentioned. So offense was really, really good in the first half, but surprisingly in the second half, it got very quiet. Ohio made the right adjustments at halftime to really be able to slow down the offense. So that's also a little bit concerning. I mean, you're scoring after a 31-point first half with and also included a blocked punt touchdown, but still you have 24 points on offense, and then you go from that to 3. While the defense also, lets up. But I mean, although the defense is going to be the big problem, I mean, it is also problematic that, your offense scores 3 points in the entire second half, especially against a team like Ohio, where you're the favorite and you're nursing a big lead and everything. So it's just, it's a little bit worrisome. I'm not sure what exactly went wrong, whether it was more of the run stop or the pass stop, but like Ohio was able to get there. There's some incompletions by Calicmanis to feel that maybe he could have made a better decision. There's a lot of times where Ohio, the pressure got to him and they were in his face. He had to either throw it away or try to use his legs, and that sometimes didn't really work out. But I mean, so Ohio definitely made the right adjustments to slow down the Scarlet Knights on offense, hold them out of the end zone, and then we'll talk about the defensive side of the ball. But I mean, that was just a complete disaster altogether.
Like I said earlier, it's a tale of 2 halves. I mean, you go from one half where you are absolutely shredding the Ohio defense up and down the field, right. And then the next half you sweep by 3 points. And I understand that the Rutgers only took 3 drives during that half. One of them was stopped, one of them was a field goal, the other one was the end of the game. But at the end of the game, they did look good. They were moving down the field. They did have to use the 4th down more than a couple times to be able to convert and keep chewing up clock. But in reality, especially with how they were rolling in the first half, you don't expect them to get stopped at all, really. I mean, at least get some points on the board. But in reality, obviously that's not what happened. Ohio came out, adjusted well, really kind of put a lot of pressure on Calicmanis because he was hit and dumped a couple times, like later in the game, taking some really stupid sacks, if I had to be honest with you, where
Yeah, there was
he
that
could have,
one.
used his feet to
Yeah,
get away, throw the ball. It's like, or throwing the ball out of bounds.
yeah,
We have to make good decisions, and we can't take losses on plays. But they were lucky; they skated out of there with the win. Offense did just enough in the second half to push past
yeah.
Ohio,
Mm.
seal the game. But in all honesty, this is not the two groups that I'm worried about. It's
Yeah,
not the group
neither.
that I'm worried about out of the
Yeah, me
two.
neither. I think they'll figure it out. But those are interesting points you made. Like the only 3 drives in the second half. So I mean that played a role, and then I guess one was stopped. The Rutgers had to punt in between the Ohio touchdown drives. So that was one of them. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, Rutgers obviously like falling short on that one. Though another one was a field goal, and another one was end of game. So maybe Ohio also had the ball a lot. They were also doing a lot of work on offense. They took a lot of time off the clock because they were putting together, orchestrating like long drives to get themselves back in the game because they were down by 14 and third, to start the second half. So they also took a lot of time. And Rutgers also, they really, yeah. I mean, that maybe the offense wasn't as bad as the 3 points because one of them was a stop, one of them was a field goal, and one of them was the end of game, which maybe they in a different situation they would have scored. So I mean, maybe it's not all that bad, but I mean, it still wasn't still wasn't the best look, only going for 3 in the second half after 31 and the explosive start and then the quiet finish. But yeah, you're absolutely right when you say that's not the side of the ball I'm worried about because the defense was absolutely shredded, and that pretty much went on the entire game. That wasn't like really one half versus the other half, like except with the exception of like one like key drive, like they were shredded like the entire game, like from beginning to end, pretty much. I mean, a few exceptions here and there, but like, I mean, they were outgained by the Scarlet Knights 440 to 399 or something, or 440 to 430, excuse me, 440 to 423. So pretty close, but I mean, still, like, you're getting outgained in the game. I mean, in a lot of ways, they got like outplayed, but I mean, Rutgers, was able to do enough on offense. But yeah, the defensive side, not great. I mean, a few different things. I mean, little to no pressure on Navarro. He had all day to throw. He was able to get outside of the pocket and make plays. He was able to run. He was able to even stint in the pocket and throw. And that's something maybe you aren't expecting too much. I mean, Ohio, similar to Rutgers, got all their playmakers involved. I mean, downfield, like the receivers were making catches. They were also finding the soft zone spot in the coverage, and Rutgers, the defensive backs are not. I mean, they were playing well, but like they were not near the receivers. Oftentimes, that the coverage was just not the greatest. I mean, we kind of talked about this on my podcast, but like that's kind of what happened. Bad angles from the secondary, no sacks, no turnovers, which is something Shiano was disappointed about. Surrendered. The Scarlet Knights surrendered over 200 yards of rushing, which included 93 from Parker Navarro, so who actually led the game in rushing, even ahead of Antoine Raymond's 88. So props to him. I mean, we knew what he could do with his legs. C.A. Bangura, the running back who transferred back from Minnesota, had 86. So he also had a pretty solid night running the ball. I mean, an average of 5.4 yards a carry, along of 24. Navarro along of 28. He had a rushing touchdown that I believe was 17 yards. So there's just a lot of plays like that. But I mean, even more concerning to me was the fact that the defense they could not, like, I mean, if there's any misdirection or any pre-snap motion or anything, even just like faking a handoff and keeping it in, the little play action touch passes to the tight ends. I mean, that was enough for Ohio to score multiple touchdowns. And one such play, like the two defenders for Rutgers collided into each other in the tight end. Jack Bruno caught his second touchdown. So not only was the coverage bad, like the execution was just really like horrible. And like, I just, yeah, I mean, I really just don't even know what to say. Like that looked like, like, I don't know, you put a better team's name in there and yeah, this looks like a good win, but like, I mean, like whatever the team is, like, whether they're good or bad, like this is just an unacceptable like performance on the defensive side of the ball. And it only got worse when time went on, and they were up 31-17, and Ohio was the team to make the adjustments, and they were able to come back in the game. And that's what concerns me, like even more, that Rutgers would let up a lead like that. Like when a lot had to go right for them to even build the lead in the first place, and that's very concerning. That the defense, like, basically allowed Ohio back in that game, and along with the offense. But I mean, the fact that they blew a 17-point lead, they also blew one in the bowl game to Kansas State. But this game, they were able to figure it out. But yeah, that blown lead's concerning because a lot of that has to do with the defense allowing long touchdown drives by Ohio on multiple occasions.
Well, first of all, as from the defensive side of the ball, where was the pass rush?
Yeah, and
Where
there
was
was
it?
zero pass rush, like no, like zero sacks. I think like 4 pressures the entire game. I mean, we saw like nothing out of like. I mean, there's a few tackles each for O'Neal and Weaver. We saw nothing out of our edge rushers. I mean, it was just like Moses Walker was, the team's best defender with the career high 13 tackles, and he actually had a pretty solid game. He was in the backfield for a couple of those as well, but I mean, like, he had 5 solo tackles, 2 TFLs. The rest of the defense just very quiet. I mean, the secondary was actually like, I would say much better than the front end. I mean, at least they had like total, they had higher numbers of total tackles, solo tackles. Jabome was in there a little bit, but the front four and like the front seven was just like they were just really not on the money today. And like and that's what I mean. Like I mean, the back end also has to do coverage, and they even with the lapses in those, like they still at least kind of held up. Like the front end did not do their job, which is rushing the passer, slowing down the run. That's their entire job, and they were not able to do it.
Yeah, I don't know if the injury to Blue-Eli really affected the running game that much, or for the run defense. Sorry,
Right.
but with I believe it was Zaire Angoy and Keyshawn Griffin are going to be the two head tackles going forward.
Yeah. Well, I guess
With
the other our other transfer at that position is still healthy. So he's probably gonna also be in that rotation. But yeah, Zaire Angoing, Kashawn Griffin, and Daryl Dinagohi, the other transfer, he's still healthy and available. So also didn't see him. I don't even see his name like in this lineup. So like
no, he did play.
he
He
did.
saw the field a little bit.
I see, but I don't see him like on the depth. Oh, I do. Wait, yeah, I don't know. I don't. I'm on the box score thing, but maybe he just didn't have any impact or something like in this one because I don't see his name even like listed here unless I'm missing something. But
No, because you remember Richie from the Night Report saying
yeah, right.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's
he was obviously healthy and in the game, but I don't see for some reason on ESPN's like box score thing. I
maybe
don't
you
see
record a stat.
Yeah. I guess that's what the reason is because that's probably why because there was he didn't I guess he didn't record a stat, and as a defensive tackle, like especially if you're not, you know what I mean, you're again like the run defense was that bad, like where like you have a player, like who didn't get any stat at all, not even tackle, and yeah, that's just like I don't know, that's very disappointing. But like I mean, I thought like I mean I don't know, I'm just a little disappointed with I mean really the whole defense, but I thought like Eric O'Neal and Bradley Weaver had like that, and they probably maybe still do have it. We just didn't see it, but like I thought they'd have that game breaking talent where they get around the edge and get a big sack, but there was just like none of that to be found by not only them but by like any of the other guys, Jordan Walker and Jordan Thompson. I mean like there was just like no pass rush to be found. And not only that, I mean, Navarro was comfortable in the pocket as well as
He
outside.
could have had a seat. He could have taken a nap back there. I mean,
Yeah,
really.
he had all day. So I mean, like, but it's just like we knew he was going to be a deadly rusher, and but
We
he like
couldn't even
created.
contain that, and there wasn't even somebody that was dedicated to containing that, which I
Yeah,
think
there
was
was
a
no
big scheme.
spy. Like there was nobody there. Like he was able to operate outside the pocket, make plays on the run, and then inside the pocket too. Like I mean, that's something that maybe you didn't know so much about. Obviously, as a quarterback, like at this level, you have to have some of that. But I mean, like he did a good job of that too. It's just he wasn't able to connect on any of his deep shots. And I think that's why I credit the secondary because their coverage was on point in those deep shots. They didn't let the Ohio players come up with a big reception. There was like one that was kind of like a high floating ball, but that one was not really a big like backbreaker. But that's the one thing I think the Rutgers defense did well. They had their hands to the football. They really defended the pass as well. They guarded the receivers tight in those specific cases. Sometimes also the passes were just off from Navarro too, so that it wasn't really like a real threat. But I mean, when the secondary was tested, they made plays. So I
I
remember.
see. You've mentioned that a couple times, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna contest that a little bit because I don't really know what you're talking about because Navarro did go 21 of 31, right, with 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Um, one of a couple of those passes, I distinctly remember the guy just needed to catch the ball. It wasn't the secondary that made a stop or anything. The guy just needed to catch the ball, and he didn't. You remember
Yeah.
the one where Navarro throws a dart in the middle of the field? There's nobody around, and the guy just
I think
doesn't
it
catch
popped off the hands of the player and it bounced off incomplete. It was nearly like could have maybe been intercepted, but it was like incomplete. There was a couple like that. There's also just I just don't I guess Navarro just didn't really have like that level of accuracy as like in those deep situations as Kai Manis because there was a few like deep balls, but they weren't exactly accurate. Or if they were, Rutgers like the corners and safeties were pressed against them. I remember one time someone got a hand to the ball and like batted it like kind of out of the end zone. I don't know if that one was going to be catchable, but I mean, I guess my point is they guarded in those situations they guarded them well in man to man. The secondary also came up and like made a lot of tackles. Like I just mentioned the stat sheet and like after Moses Walker, Cobb Sanders had 9 total tackles and Jet Elad at 7. I remember him coming up for a big tackle out of the backfield, but like and then you compare that to like the guys on the D line and it's like it's a little bit shocking to me. I mean, even Masco and Miller, like those guys all made plays on at least in some form, but like the coverage aspect of it itself, though, like Ohio receivers kind of had their way with the Scarlet Knights because they didn't really contest like a lot of the other balls that well is I guess the problem. Like you said, the secondary took bad angles and they were nowhere like near like what I mean. It's almost like they let the Ohio players catch the ball and then they reacted to that like they were. You know what I mean? Like it's yeah. I talked about this a little bit on the other pod, but it's almost like something you do like when a team's like 2 touchdowns ahead of you, or you're 2 touchdowns ahead of them, and you're just letting time go down. Obviously, it wasn't like to that degree in this case, but I just feel like there was just a problem with the scheme because I feel like the players themselves didn't all like I said they didn't. In my opinion, they really didn't all do that bad, but it looks bad because they were like sometimes nowhere near the football, and Ohio players were
the
like
scheming
taking
wasn't
advantage of
great.
it.
The
Yeah,
scheming wasn't
and
great.
that
They
basically
played
made the
such a
secondary
soft
not
play.
great.
They really didn't play man defense that much at
No,
all.
like hardly. Yeah.
And I think the reason why some of those secondary people have so many tackles is because the running backs went right through the defensive line. I mean,
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, that's the reason why they were making a lot of plays back there. That's the thing. Like, so the pass defense was, I guess, with the exception of those deep passes, like, yeah, I mean, really bad because, like, I mean, they were getting dotted up by like Navarro and receivers all over the soft zone, and then the run defense was bad too, and they could not contain Navarro around the edge. They could not contain Banger around the edge. I mean, like, I just don't like. I don't know what was like going on like all night. Like they were getting fooled by like the simplest of misdirections and things that like a team of this level should be able to have figured out, and it just doesn't represent the Rutgers defense that we all know and love. Like this is a team that's been built on defense for the longest time, and that's been
well,
the
even
strength.
last year the defense had its struggles, but it wasn't nearly
It
this
wasn't
bad.
this bad though. Yeah. I mean, even when they had their struggles last year, it wasn't this bad. Like where what I mean? Like yeah, it wasn't this bad, and I don't know. Like it's disappointing. But Greg Schiano did say like that this defense was a work in progress, and that definitely showed. Like I mean, he wasn't kidding. As I think Chris Eisman, like from NorthJersey.com, like he had a tweet like saying that exact thing. He said it was a work in progress, and he wasn't kidding. But I mean, I guess he really wasn't. He really wasn't kidding. But I just didn't think it was going to be like this, you know what I mean? Like I thought that meant like they're not where they are, they're not where they're gonna be, or something like that, or you know what I mean. But for the whole defense to be like this porous against a good MAC team, but still like a MAC team, not a Big Ten team, like that just really has me a little bit like a bit worried. But I mean, they luckily for Rutgers, they have 2 more weeks to kind of figure this out. I mean, Miami, Ohio comes in with 0 points in the Wisconsin game, and that's going to be an interesting matchup for Rutgers. It's strength on strength and weakness on weakness. So, the Rutgers offense going against the Miami stingy defense that allowed 17. I think 7 of those were a defensive score from Wisconsin too. So I think it was really 10 points of offense. So it's going to be a good offense on a good defense, and then Miami's troubled offense going against Rutgers' troubled defense. So we'll see what gives in that game. I mean, maybe Miami gets on the board, but who knows? Like, you know what I mean? Can Rutgers really shut them down? With their own defense, can they rebound and put things together? Maybe some of the concerns can be addressed in the next 2 weeks if Rutgers really buckles down. But I mean, I feel like it has to kind of happen this week because Norfolk State, I don't think it's going to be such a good indicator of that, even if they do shut them down completely, or you know what I mean. So I feel like that there's going to have to be a big shift this week, or this upcoming week for Miami, Ohio, a similar level opponent as Ohio. And then on the offensive side of the ball, like, you have to be more consistent than 3 points in the fourth quarter and 24 in the first half. You know what I mean?
Well, first of all, Norfolk State, we talked about them at length in the other podcast. We know what they're going to be. We know they're not going to be a test. But
Right.
with Miami of Ohio, I feel like if we give up any more than 14 points, or
Yeah.
I feel like if we give up 14 points, that's where we need to be like,
Because
this
they
team
didn't,
could be
right. Because they didn't
really,
score at all against Wisconsin for comparison.
yeah. And then like I said, I mentioned at the beginning of the season, I mentioned in one of our pods, um, I'm really concerned about the interior defensive line, and it showed. Now with Doug Blue-Eli being out for the season, what is Iowa going to do to this interior Rutgers defensive line? They might just come in and start imposing their will. We're talking about like, maybe they don't need like a fancy offense, or maybe they won't have like a great like passing offense. Are they going to need it, or they could just be able to play Iowa ball on us?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Because the talk before this game, with Iowa and our pod and other podcasts has been more so like, yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of the opposite, that Rutgers this year won't have to like, out Iowa to use, the common prevailing theme there. So I mean, like, I was kind of hearing a lot of that they're going to kind of have the offense now to compete and kind of match the strides that Iowa's made in the past game with. We don't know how good Gronowski is going to be, but I expect an improvement there, coming from South Dakota State and, the career he's had over there. And I'm kind of excited to see it for them. But like at the same time now, yeah, with Rutgers obviously having a passing offense, but you're right, the way this front has looked, and, Iowa could still go back to the bread and butter of like running the ball, using their offensive line, using their running backs. I mean, they've always been a team like that, using their tight ends, like playing kind of that more Big Ten style football against the Scarlet Knights. And it's already was going to be an uphill battle of a game, even if Rutgers like ran the table in the non-conference and got a big head about it, or at least the fans did. But now it's like much more problematic because like that didn't even happen. You know what I mean? We just saw what happened this time, and the way the defense was, that if Iowa has any semblance of an offense, like it's going to be very hard, because that Iowa defense is going to be that much better than Ohio's defense, for example. It's going to be better than Miami if Ohio's stingy defense too. So it's like, you know what I mean? The 34 points that came in this game, that could be less. So it's just, you know what I mean? It's a matter of how does Rutgers match up in the trenches now. So like, you know what I mean? And yeah, with that defensive line, if they can't stop an Iowa team who has any semblance of an offense, it could be, they might not even have to go use their passing game, to your point. They might even be able to do it the
Just
old-fashioned
impose their will with a running game. At least now we might have the firepower to win in the shootout.
right.
But like, do we
If we go
want
back
to
to that,
do a shootout every game? I don't know.
I think it's a good strategy against Iowa. Like, we might win that one. I don't know about some of the other ones, but like, it's fun football. I like it personally. I mean, but like, I mean, I don't know about every game, and getting into one with like barely winning one, and then they got shut down against Ohio. I don't know. I mean, if you know what I mean, like, I don't, that strategy might not bode so well when they start playing some of the better offenses in the conference, if their defense is going to be this bad, because those defenses are also going to be better, and Rutgers will be left with the dust. So you know what I mean? Like, that's only going to work for so long. They have to tighten up on the defensive side of the ball, like, no matter what.
Yeah, either way, it's going to be an uphill battle, definitely. I don't even know where you go from here on the defensive side of the ball, but a lot needs to be done either way.
Yeah, I mean, with the Iowa game coming in 3 weeks, like, yeah, like we said, that was already kind of going to be like an uphill battle in some ways. But I mean, it changes like the whole calculus of the game now too, because like the whole, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, if Iowa can impose their will on Rutgers, then they might not even have to, really try to shoot at with Rutgers. They might just be able to do that. And if Rutgers, falters against a strong Iowa defense, then that could be the game right there. So yeah, a lot of work needs to be done on the defensive side of the ball for Rutgers, so they can complement the offense and get stops, so they can they can win on both sides of the ball. Is basically the long story short.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really to debate there. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be strength against strength and weakness against weakness.
I know. It's going to be an interesting game next week against the Red Hawks, who are also
not even just that. I'm talking about Ohio. Iowa. Strength against strength, offense against defense.
Defense, and then our defense against their O. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, but I mean, we're saying like their offenses might be improved, but we don't know that yet because we haven't seen them play. So, yeah, a lot of unknowns. But yeah, again, strength versus strength, defense. I mean, right? Yeah, their defense, our offense, and then on the other side of the ball, their offense, our defense. So yeah, I mean, it'll be an interesting contrast of sorts too. But I mean, I guess that does it for. I mean, I guess some other notes. Special teams for Rutgers. They had a really good showing too, just kind of similar to the offense. Like Rutgers has always been big on special teams, whether it's the kicking, the punting, the blocking. But I mean, they had a couple big moments. I think on my socials I was like calling them special teams U last night. Because not only did they block a punt and recover that in the end zone, which has become a Greg Schiano staple. I think they lead the country with 11 of those since 2022. But on top of that, Jay Patel, he went 2 for 2 on field goal attempts, and he hit all his extra points. And he has an extended consecutive streak of 15 now. It set a record at 14 when Rutgers went up 10-7 in the second quarter, I believe. But then he made one in the fourth quarter, the decisive one in the fourth quarter. So now the streak is 15. So a good night for special teams all around the board. We didn't really get to see our punter in that much action. Jacob Anderson. For the first time because the offense was, I guess, pretty prolific. If I remember, the punt was a good one to pin them back. But I mean, but between the kicking and the punt block, I'd say it was a pretty good night for special teams. I mean, the returning too. I mean, Jashawn Benjamin had a kick return for 27 yards. Ben Black.
We actually returned it. Isn't that crazy?
Exactly right. And then Ben Black had one for 14, which I guess I don't know if that one was that's such good field position, but still a decent return.
Remember, they were kicking it short too, so that 14 yards was further up.
Yeah, it wasn't like right. Yeah, there was a few.
It wasn't like he took it out of the end zone, and got to the 14.
Yeah. But these are the kickoff returns were short. There was like a couple penalties on Ohio because there was like a lot of bad snaps with them. There was like kickoffs out of bounds. So Rutgers was the beneficiary. But I mean, Sean Benjamin returned one for 27. Ben Black for 14. The punt returns, Cobb Sanders had one for 23. And then Cam Miller, they're saying that's a punt return, but it's really like a punt block touchdown. He recovered the punt in the end zone, blocked by Cobb Sanders. So I mean, like the special teams unit. I mean, Jacob Anderson had a 44-yarder that landed inside the Ohio 20. I believe it did pin them back deep. Jay Patel went 2 for 2 on field goals, 4 for 4 from extra points. Not an entirely tough night for him as long as 26 yards out. So, I mean, he had a lot of short field goals, but that's, again, credit to the offense. But special teams from returning to punting to kicking to blocking, which is, again, a Greg Schiano specialty. Special teams looks really good. I mean, I know it's the third phase of the game, but for Rutgers, it's a very important phase of the game. And, yeah, I mean, they were on point, like, across the board.
Yeah. I mean, at least that was one consistent for Rutgers, is having a consistent special team show up. Everything else, not so much.
Yeah, that was funny. Like, I mean, not funny, but like when I was calling them special teams U, and I'm like, is that really something like to brag about though? Like, I was kind of doing it almost like in a
punt blocks, yes.
Punt blocks are yes, because that's not something that every university's like football team excels at. I mean, ours is the best and by a margin, and it's not by accident that they really take pride in that. They work on that. And Greg Schiano actually said something interesting in the presser too, where he credited the student section for causing a penalty, an Ohio penalty that backed them up 5 yards that basically set up kind of the punt block because it backed up Ohio 5 yards, and then Greg Schiano said he felt more comfortable calling the punt block, and then it led to the actual punt block. So like I was like, yeah, I mean, it's another. Honestly, the crowd, as spotty as it was, they were like loud in a lot of moments. Like they really did. It was a decent.
Well, you gotta give credit to the students there. The students showed up.
Students were absolutely.
They were there 45 minutes early.
Yeah, it was packed to the brim, and I mean, our side of the stadium too, like was pretty full. The other side was kind of like a very spotty like before the game. During the game, it kind of was like more than half full, but still like a lot of open spots. I think average the attendance was announced like above 30,000, so 34,000 or so. So it's definitely not a sellout by any means. And small contingent, decent contingent of Ohio fans who probably left with their heads held high. But I mean, it was a good night of football. But I mean, the Rutgers fans, like in the big moments, even after some people left, like, oh man, they were loud. For them to be able to actually influence the game, like sometimes people say that and like, oh yeah, they influenced the game, but in this case, they actually really did influence the game. If that's something that allowed the puck block. So I mean, props to our fans and our student section for all that.
Yeah, definitely made their voices heard, even though there wasn't that many. Or I guess even though it wasn't meant to sell out, everyone was kind of yelling at the top of their lungs.
Everyone was pretty, and even like that third down, like when Rutgers got the big stop, like or like a lot of fans had left, but like the ones that the crowd just suddenly like got very loud on that one third down, and Rutgers had to stop on it, and I was impressed like that, like in one down, like the crowd got like very loud all at once, and I was just like, huh, that's like, you know what I mean, like. So yeah, no, the Rutgers fans were great. The ones that were there, the student section was packed to like the brim. Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see this place again, like, when Big Ten play starts for like Iowa, stuff like that. It's going to be even more packed. So yeah, I mean, that was an interesting comment because I didn't really think about that the 5 yards that backed them up, because I guess it was like a delay of game or something along those lines that backed them up because they couldn't hear it, and then that's what allowed them to do the punt blocks. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like sometimes like these individual things that you might think are like insignificant, like now they add up. Now the snap's bad for Ohio on the punt, and you know what I mean, and now like the block comes in, like, you know what I mean, like that wouldn't have happened. I guess like that could have been the difference between winning and losing the game, the way the rest of the night went for Rutgers. So, and when Rutgers was up 31-14, the place was loud. Ohio quieted them down, but then when Rutgers needed to stop, the crowd definitely helped there too. So I mean, yeah, like I said, credit to the fans, credit to the special teams, credit to the offense too for their performance, except for the second half got quiet, but the defense just does need a lot of work. Like, there's really no like way around saying that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it is kind of incredible that the this student section was able to influence a game. 45 minutes before the game, they were packed in there, and I know that's kind of what they do for the first game of the season, but man, would it be beautiful to see for the rest of the way out.
I know they were. I mean, yeah, they were there, and I was really like, I was impressed with that part of the turnout, and yeah, no, they were great. But I mean, yeah, like for the fact that they actually did influence, it wasn't just like, we influenced the game by being loud, and also that's also a big edge. But I mean, like the fact that actually affected a call and affected a penalty and affected the punt block team come in, like that's a real impact that they had. And the way this defense is playing, I mean, defense feeds off the crowd noise more than anyone, and like, if we can get our fans loud and get the defense, with pin to, get their ears pinned back, like, I don't know, I feel like that's one of the coolest parts about playing defense versus offense, that you're working with the crowd. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, like, yeah, so I feel like, if we can boost the defense by, with the fans too and stuff like that, I mean, defenses, they feed off the chaos, off the crowd energy. Offenses need to focus, and I really love being, you know what I mean? It would be, yeah. I mean, I think like if we can get that to also impact our defense and help our defense out, I think that'll also go a long way, especially given where this defense is right now after week 1.
Yeah. Well, we can't talk about good news forever because we're going to move on to the Rutgers football recruiting side of things. Earlier today, 3-star defensive lineman Tavian Branch announced that he is decommitting from Rutgers. He hasn't announced where he's committing to yet. I did just see somebody mention that he had an offer from Auburn, so he could be going down there to explore that. That's not confirmed. That's just something that I quickly saw in a post. I'm not sure if he has 100 if he has an offer from Auburn. To be honest with you, it's just something that I saw. But he is 6'3", 300 pounds. Definitely was good to be somebody that feels a need for Rutgers. I mean, we already don't have that many defensive tackles coming in. We continue to remain thin at a position where in this class, I believe there's only one or two others. When ideally you want to have a couple, especially with how thin Rutgers has been at this position for the past couple of years. But unfortunately, it does look like he will not be suiting up for the Scarlet Knights next season. Best of luck to him wherever he goes. But with that being said, Rutgers does have an unusual amount of decommitments so far in this recruiting cycle. And this is very strange for somebody like Greg Schiano, which usually only has like 2 to 3 decommitments per year, maybe even at most 4. But so far they have 6 decommitments. Quarterback Gavin Sidwar, offensive lineman Tyrell Simpson, linebacker Justin Edwards, linebacker Adam Shaw, Rael Kelly, safety Rael Kelly, and now Branch is decommitting. So, definitely not a good look for the program. Definitely not our best recruiting class, which I believe I saw that are now 39th in the nation according to Rivals. But definitely not a good sight. Definitely don't want to see these guys leaving like that. But unfortunately, it does look like he will be in another uniform come next season.
Yeah. 39th now in the country for the 2026 recruiting cycle. Classes down to 20 total commits. So yeah, it's slipping a little bit. But I mean, I think the problematic part, I guess, is the number of it. Like obviously, things are gonna happen, and decommits are gonna happen here and there. But like having that many in one cycle especially for a Rutgers team where they have the chop culture and the family. They have like not a lot of portal action goes on unless a player wants to drop to a lower level or see more playing time. There's hasn't really been a lot of just people just outright just leaving in exodus. So for a team like that to have 6 decommitments, and 4 of them came in the same week too. It was I remember we had a podcast about that way back in the midsummer. Tyrell Simpson, Justin Edwards, Adam Shaw, Rael Kelly, and all of them were kind of different reasons. I think Simpson was something about his family and staying near North Carolina or something, or Virginia. Justin Edwards, obviously the NIL situation at the U, and then Rael Kelly, going from no New Jersey ties, and he's from Ohio but got a better offer. So went from Toledo, Rutgers, Alabama. Adam Shaw, Michigan State, family ties. I think both of his parents are Michigan State athletes themselves, so that even though he's from New Jersey, I can understand. But yeah, a little unfortunate. It's interesting the timing of this news too with Tavian Branch. I don't know, if last night's game had anything to do with that.
Maybe he saw that and was like, oh no.
Yeah, it's he's also a D lineman, right? So maybe he's a little worried about that. I don't know. You never know. Things like that could influence things. Who knows? You know what I mean? But maybe he just got a better offer. Obviously, the Auburn offer and everything. He just wants. It doesn't mean he won't be back for sure. He can always recommit, I guess. But it probably does mean. Yeah, it's not 100% that he won't be coming to Rutgers. Maybe he just also wants to look at his other options one more time. But it probably does mean that it probably does mean that he wants to explore other options. But it probably does mean he has at least an idea that he would want to maybe go somewhere else. Otherwise, he wouldn't decommit in the first place. So yeah, I don't know. The recent offer being Auburn, but. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I saw his tweet and everything. Yeah, no problems or anything with that, obviously. But it looks like he just wants to take a look at his other options. Like I said, doesn't mean he won't be back for sure. He could still end up recommitting. But as of now, it looks like he's definitely considering the other options available to him.
Yeah. I doubt he recommits, but you never know. It is the world of college football.
Exactly, it could happen. So we'll see.
Yeah. Before we get out of here, we're going to do some quick reporting on some non-revenue sports. Number 16 field hockey took care of Wagner 5-1 in their home opener. They're number 16 for a reason. Of course, they're gonna take care of the lower conferences and stuff like that without much of an issue.
Right.
Women's volleyball is set to start their season today versus Marist, and men's soccer will be down in Virginia today to play James Madison before moving to William and Mary on Monday. So that pretty much does it for everything that we have here today. Arnav, is there anything you wanted to add before we get out of here?
Yeah, I mean, I guess just talking about these other sports, like Rutgers field hockey getting the win over Wagner to start their season 5-1. Like you said, probably expected. I mean, a ranked opponent taking on like a lower conference team again. And so yeah, I mean it's a good start to the season. I feel like field hockey's always been like, often been ranked. They've been, pretty high up there the last few years, and they've had a good program. So that's one to definitely follow along if you're a Rutgers fan. Volleyball actually got their first win over Marist, 3-1. They had a pretty awful season last year, but a good start to this season. They're in a 3-game, I guess, like a little meet in Buffalo where they'll take on Liberty tomorrow, and then they'll take on Buffalo on Sunday. Or yeah, right, yeah. Liberty tomorrow afternoon, and then Buffalo on Sunday. Field hockey back in action on Sunday as well, taking on Vermont or at Vermont. They will be at Vermont. On Sunday at noon. Men's soccer will be back in action at James Madison tonight, and they'll be at William and Mary on Monday. So a lot of soccer action going on over there. And then women's soccer will be hosting UConn in what could be a revenge game for their program after UConn knocked them out of the tournament last year, the NCAA tournament, also at Yurkek. So a big revenge game on Rutgers' minds. I believe both of the soccer teams haven't lost a game this year so far.
Yeah,
there's been a
couple draws, but
there's been a
not
couple
really lost yet.
ties, no losses. Rutgers women's is I think 2-2 or 2-0-2, with 2 draws, and the men's team just had a draw, so I think they're like 1-0-1. So I mean, both of the teams have not lost yet in the Kelly Zinn era, which is pretty cool, to be honest with you. But obviously that's going to change at some point, I'm sure.
Are
But
we
like,
going to go undefeated in the Kelly Zinn era?
it's still possible. I mean, football hung on by a thread in the opener, but it's still alive. Yeah, I mean, volleyball won, field hockey won. It's going to be interesting to see how long Rutgers can keep this up, because but we'll see. I mean, but a lot of fall sports to keep your eye on other than football, soccer, volleyball, field hockey. I mean, just a lot of different sports, both men's and women's soccer, by the way, and some big games coming up for all the teams. Miami, Ohio is going to be Rutgers' next football opponent. That's a Saturday game at 3:30, so an extra long week, I guess, for preparation for the Scarlet Knights, which is probably a good
And
one.
they might need it, yes.
Yeah, especially on the defensive side, and also a big slate of college football tomorrow. So looking forward to that too from a national perspective. But I mean, yeah, in terms of Rutgers, just certainly like a lot going on, a lot to look forward to, and yeah, I mean that's pretty much all I got.
All right, sounds good. And as always, we will be back after that Miami, Ohio game, to I guess give us kind of reaction, rundown, everything like that. Hopefully, we have a much kinder words for the defense next go around.
Right.
But as always, thank you guys so much for listening, and just remember that the bells must ring.